I, 25M, grew up in a pretty tight-knit family. I have a brother, 24M, and sister, 22F, and was very close to my parents, 52M, 50F, spending every holiday there most weekends during college. We grew up on the suburbs of Minneapolis and all went to the University of Minnesota. A year ago, if you would have told me where I would be at today, I would have laughed at your pessimism. But here we are. I met Stacy, 24F, during my sophomore year of college, and we dated until I proposed last December. She said yes, and we were planning on getting married next summer and spending our lives in Minnesota. But in April, my life fell apart. I came home early to find my brother in bed with my fiancée. I freaked out and left and kicked her out of our shared apartment. Days later, she came back and said she had fallen in love with my brother over the years and that she was sorry but was where her heart was. She moved out, and I blocked her and my brother. Initially, the rest of my family took my side and banned my brother from family events. I slowly began to heal. I had a work opportunity come up. My boss pulled me in and said that he had suggested I lead the office in Chicago. They're kind of a mess, and the company wanted someone from headquarters to take over. I couldn't believe it, but I said yes. I never thought I'd leave Minnesota, but thought it was time for a change. This all happened in early November, and the plan was to move after Christmas. My plan was to tell the family at Thanksgiving and then spend Christmas one last time before moving. But of course, my ex and brother had to stick the knife in one last time before they left. When I showed up for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, there were several cars as the whole extended family comes over, so I didn't even notice my brother's car. I entered the house, and the first thing I see is my ex and brother talking with my aunt. I freeze as my aunt calls for my mom to come in. My brother and ex won't look me in the eye. My mom and dad come in, greet me, and ask me to sit down in the living room. I sit away from my brother and ex, but I see the rest of the family, including my sister, sits closer to them. My mom starts explaining that what they did was wrong and terrible, but that she hates that the family is split. She says I need to work toward forgiveness. My ex and brother both started to apologize, but I put my hand up. I turned to my sister and asked her if she agreed. She had tears in her eyes but nodded. Asked my dad the same question, he said yes, pretty firmly. I was alone. I got up and walked out. I heard a couple people yelling after me, but I didn't respond. I drove to a McDonald's, ate a pretty shitty Thanksgiving meal, and went through my options and decided cutting them off was my best bet. I had saved plenty. I didn't need them, and they didn't know where I was moving. I blocked them all on my phone, but it was my parents' plan that I was on, so I turned the phone in the next week and got on my own plan. Doubled my cell bill, but it was worth it to get a new number. I blocked them on social media, and I told my boss that I wanted to move to Chicago early. Talked to the landlord of the apartment I was looking to rent, and he was happy to let me in early. I moved to Chicago on December 15th, and my family had no idea. A few friends knew, and it must have slipped, because last night I got an Instagram DM from what I assume is my mom on a new profile, asking why I would move without telling them, and that the family missed and loved me, and that I needed to still make time for Christmas. I responded by saying that she only had one son now, and that I was no longer family. I then blocked her new account and locked down my profile and other social media. I've been looking to change my last name as well. I've left that life behind, and I'm excited to see what Chicago has to offer. Since moving to Chicago, things have been quiet. Not peaceful, not chaotic, just quiet. I wake up in a new apartment where no one knows my name, where no one has expectations of me, where I'm not someone's son, brother, or ex-fiancé. I'm just me, and for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. The first few days were surreal. I unpacked slowly, deliberately. Every item I placed felt like a declaration. This is mine. This is my space. This is my life now. I bought new sheets, new dishes, even a new toothbrush. I didn't want anything that reminded me of the life I left behind. I didn't want echoes of Stacy's laugh in the kitchen or my brother's voice in the hallway. I wanted silence, and I got it. Work became my anchor. The Chicago office was, as my boss warned, a mess. Disorganized, understaffed, morale in the gutter. But I threw myself into it. I arrived early, stayed late, and slowly started rebuilding the team. I wasn't just managing spreadsheets and meetings. I was rebuilding something, and that gave me purpose. It was the one place where I felt in control. But healing isn't linear. Some nights, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how it all went so wrong. I'd replay that moment, walking into my parents' house, seeing Stacy and my brother chatting like they belonged there. The way my mom asked me to sit down, the way my sister nodded through tears, the way my dad said, yes, like it was a fact, not a betrayal. I'd think about the McDonald's meal, the taste of cold fries and regret, and I'd feel that familiar ache in my chest. I started journaling, not because I thought it would fix anything, but because I needed somewhere to put the thoughts that wouldn't leave me alone. I wrote about the betrayal, about the silence, about the way my family chose unity over justice. I wrote about how forgiveness felt like a demand, not a choice. And I wrote about Chicago, about the way the city lights reflected off the river, about the strangers who smiled at me on the train, about the way the wind cut through my coat and reminded me I was still alive. One night, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, a voicemail came through. It was my sister. Her voice was shaky, like she wasn't sure she should be calling. She said she missed me, said she didn't know how to handle Thanksgiving, said she felt torn. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I wasn't ready. A week later, another message came, this time from my dad. He said he understood why I left. Said he didn't expect forgiveness, just hoped I was okay. That one hit harder. My dad isn't the emotional type. Hearing him say that made me realize how deep the fracture had gone. But again, I didn't respond. I wasn't trying to punish them. I just needed space. Real space. Not the kind where you mute someone's texts and still check their Instagram. I needed to disappear from their world so I could figure out who I was without them. I started going to a local coffee shop every Sunday. Same table, same order. The barista, a guy named Marcus, started remembering my name. We'd chat about books, movies, the weather. It was simple, human, and it reminded me that connection didn't have to be complicated. I wasn't looking for new family. I was just looking for moments that felt real. One day, Marcus asked if I wanted to join a book club he was part of. I hesitated. I hadn't been social in months, but I said yes. The first meeting was awkward. I didn't know anyone, and I wasn't sure how much of myself I wanted to share. But as the weeks went on, I found myself opening up. Not about the betrayal, not yet, but about the books, the city, the things I was learning about myself. I realized I had spent so much of my life being the good son, the responsible one, the stable partner, and when that identity shattered, I didn't know who I was. Chicago gave me the chance to rebuild, not just my career, but my sense of self. I started therapy. I found a counselor who specialized in family trauma and betrayal. The first few sessions were rough. I cried more than I talked, but slowly I began to unpack the layers. The guilt, the anger, the grief. I talked about Stacy, about my brother, about the way my family wanted me to move on without ever acknowledging the depth of the wound. I talked about how lonely it felt to be the only one who refused to pretend. And I talked about the name change. It wasn't just symbolic. It was a way to reclaim my identity. I didn't want to carry a name that tied me to people who chose convenience over loyalty. I wanted a fresh start, down to the signature on my lease. By spring, things started to shift. The weather warmed, the city came alive, and I felt lighter. I wasn't healed, not completely, but I was no longer drowning. I was swimming, sometimes against the current, but moving forward nonetheless. I still haven't spoken to my family. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe someday, when the pain feels distant and the anger has faded. But for now, I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing peace over obligation. I'm choosing truth over appearances. And Chicago? It's not just a city. It's a symbol of survival, of reinvention, of the fact that even when everything falls apart, you can still build something new.